Hey, this is Rich over at TVP Live with another quick tips tutorial brought to you by Adobe Photoshop Elements Tutorials Group. And let's jump right into this pinwheel this poster wanted to recreate. First of all, you have to realize that this is not a graphic, it's actually a photograph of a pinwheel. I added the background, or rather I cut the image out using the polygon tool. So I'm turning the background on and off. And basically that's simply all we have to do with the image to recreate it if we want to use this particular image. You could start it from scratch, but that's going to be a lot harder. So I'm going to cheat and use as much of the original image that we want. Think of it as a pinwheel piece of paper that's folded over right here, and right here. So you got two different patterns. The back pattern, which is the flowers, that's folded over. Then you got the polka dot patterns, which is the top side. And then you got this background square, which has the purple edges and this kind of birdie wallpaper. So let's recreate those three layers by simply cutting out the layers to begin with. And then we can recreate them and place them right back in. We're going to start by cutting everything out that we don't want, which is going to be those three layers, the flower layer, the bird layer, and the polka dot layers with the polygon tool. So let's jump right in here, and in no particular order, I'm just going to cut along these lines. In this case, because they're so close to each other, they're touching right here between the background and the flowers, I can cut those both out at the same time. And I'm just going to come right over to here, bring it over here, double click, and I'll hit delete. Boom! And there it is. We just cut out two layers. Let's go ahead over to the next one right here and cut along here. So what we're doing is we're keeping exactly what we want, getting rid of what we don't want, so we can replace it. And we're going to zoom out here and delete the last portion. That's going to leave us with a template. And all we have to do is place whatever we want behind there, position them, and we're pretty much done unless we want to do some shadowing. So let's go ahead and grab our first background, which was, I believe, the birdies. So we're going to grab this layer and drag it up and over to our new layer. I'm going to let go, and there it is. The only problem is it's obviously in front of the image. So we're going to go ahead and drag this below this layer here. I'm going to go ahead and lock the image so that it doesn't move around. And now when we grab anything, we'll put it where we want it. We want to fill in this square right here with this image, background image, but that also includes these little edges actually. So that is our background layer that we just inserted. And we can go ahead and lock that image, and let's go ahead and grab our next layer. Let's start with the next layer up, which is going to be the polka dot layer. That's right here. So I'm going to drag that into our project. I'll let go, and it's already popped up into the background. And basically this layer has to consist of these pieces right here, these corner pieces. So I'm going to drag this a little smaller to here, drag it up here to fill in this corner here, and make it fit. And now we have the problem that it is covering the previous layer underneath here, as you can see. We're going to cut out everything except for the four corners. So I'm going to cut this out like this. And it doesn't have to be on it, it's just whatever fills this corner, like that. And there's our secondary layer. And now we'll do our background layer with this yellow gray smudge stuff. We'll drag that into our project, and basically what we want to do is cover these sections here. So I'm going to drag it up to make sure it fills out those sections, and all we have to do is take our polygon tool again and just cut out those sections. I'm going to zoom in a little bit and carefully cut along what we don't want. And hit delete. And there we go. We got all of our new sections in our pinwheel. Now let's add some shadows to make it a little more believable. We'll start with the shadows along these four edges, and then we'll take another set of four edges after that. So I'm going to add a new layer, and I'm going to grab a color of pure black, get a brush, nice big soft brush of about 400 point, and I'm going to go ahead and boom. That's going to give us the shadow exactly where we want them. I'm going to lessen the shadow like this and cut out what we don't want now from the shadows. And that's going to equal everything beyond the edge that we want. And I'll hit delete, and you can see what's happening there. Go over to this one here. Once you've cut out the template for your drop shadow there, we can go ahead and lessen it or make it really heavy, or bring it back down and make it really natural, which is almost barely visible. And finally, we're going to do the same thing, but put the shadow underneath here where the paper folds over, so it really looks like it's folding over. So I'm going to make a new layer, grab the brush again. We had it at about 400 points. Do the same thing. And I'll just right click in the middle. I'll hit select inverse and get rid of everything else that I don't want. I'll deselect, and now I can toggle my drop shadow on and off. And let's go ahead and bring it down so it looks a little more natural. And finally, all we need is an overall drop shadow. So let's go ahead and marry these layers. I'll pick the top one and the bottom one. I'll right click and I'll hit merge layers. That merged everything down into one new layer. Let's turn our background back on, but let's pick that layer. I'm going to right click and hit select edit layer style, and I'm going to make this at about 135 is going to be the angle of our new drop shadow. I will select drop shadow. Let's go ahead and make it 100% for now, and it's obviously too harsh, but we'll make the distance a little bit more like this and size it up to bring the softness up a little bit like that. And once we got it to where we like it, now we can bring the opacity way back down to where it's almost non-noticeable. Hit OK, and there we have our pinwheel redone with a new inserts and realistic looking drop shadows. Well, that's it for this tutorial. This is Rich calling it quits, saying over and out.